Maayong adlaw. Welcome to episode 3 of our 5th season. In this episode, we're talking with owner and creator of Rebirth Garments, Sky Cubacub. We are talking about radical visibility and where wearables and accessories fit within the realm of health and wellness. More to explore in this episode. We hope that you enjoy. Maayad-ayad na nga adlaw kauban and happy Pride Month. Welcome to the third episode of our 5th season for the Pilipinx and Wellness podcast. I'm your host, Cheryl Sampson Ramirez, and my pronouns are she, her, sha. I am currently recording from the unceded lands of the still living Tongva and Gabrielino peoples. For this episode's audio description, currently I am wearing a straw weaved hat with red, white, and blue accents, a red feather on the left side of my hat, red, white, and blue scarf, a red and white top with white embroidery. To my left are wooden slates, and to my right are white blinds above a white wall. Following our last episode, Mastering Healthy Boundaries for Filipinos with Doctor of Psychology Dr. Marinette Asuncion Oy, aka at the Brown Psych, we will be welcoming creative rebirth garments Sky Cubacub. As mentioned in previous episodes, all views discussed are for informational and educational purposes only. It's not meant to be medical advice, nor does it constitute therapy or professional advice. Always consult with your healthcare practitioner, especially before starting any exercise or new health program, or a qualified mental health professional for your particular condition. Without further ado, we'd like to welcome to our podcast Sky Cubacub. Welcome, Sky.
Hi, I'm Sky Cubacub. I use they, them, and they, them, their pronouns. And yeah, I'm so glad to be here.
We're happy to have you for Pride Month. And we're looking forward to this conversation on radical visibility as we use that as the focal point of our topic for this episode. Now, typically, we like to open our episodes with knowing where our guests are from, a little bit more about who you are. Can you please share with our community where are both sides of your family from and where are you currently streaming from?
Right now, I am streaming from Chicago on Meskwaki land. And my dad is from Manila. His mom was from Manila, and his dad was from Pampanga. And my mom was from Michigan. Um, I have lived in this building that I am zooming from my entire life. I've literally never moved. I am a small, half Filipinx, half white, kind of xenogender, non-binary person. I have spiky makeup under one eye that looks like a bunch of triangles exploding out of it, and dark blue lipstick. I'm wearing a all outfit like pieces are by me. My headpiece is pink, purple, turquoise, and yellow scales, and it kind of has a point in the front and some little dangly side pieces. But it's very like skull cap like. I have a colorful neck brace and dress that are matching. They both have my late father's paintings featured on them, and those paintings are in a rainbow of jewel tones and feature a lot of um, the golden ratio spiral coming out of a person who is kind of like a bald monk type figure. Um, and this one is called Octave 8 for the painting name, but we nicknamed it the butterfly in my family, so that's what we always call it. I'm wearing black buckram butterfly sleeves based off of a pattern that I snatched from my grandma. I just found some half-made butterfly sleeves and traced them and figured it out. It has some little chainmail pieces on it. So there's micro mail chainmail fringe in black dipped in brass, and it's attached to me in kind of like a harness way with chainmail over my fitted three-quarter sleeve turtleneck dress. And I have, yeah, that's basically what you can see. And then my background is one of my dad's paintings and my serger sewing machine.
Yeah, there's a lot of color on the screen right now. I love all the different accents that you have, and you have a theme of butterflies going on. You know, they say butterflies represent our ancestors or those that have transitioned. So, thank you for bringing them in for today's episode.
Yeah, I'm very into them.
Well, we wanted to start with a quick shout out to Dr. Pao Abustan from our The X in Filipinx episode who referred you to us. Hopefully some of you all have tuned in and listened to that one. That's how you were placed on our radar, Sky, and we became familiar with Rebirth Garments, or that's how I personally was introduced to Rebirth Garments. Let's start there. For our community who's meeting you for the first time, tell us more about yourself and what Rebirth Garments is all about.
I started Rebirth Garments in 2014 and it is a clothing line for queer and trans disabled folks of all sizes and ages. I started it because of my own experiences as a non binary disabled person and mad person. And I just wanted to be able to make clothing for people like me and make friends. So that was like definitely the basis behind the clothing line.
Yeah, I mean, inclusivity is a big part of health and wellness for our community. And when people typically think of health and wellness, wearables and garments don't always come to the forefront of their minds. Because we're a health and wellness podcast, maybe Sky, if you can explain how do you personally think Rebirth Garments redefines the notion of health and wellness?
Well, I think clothing and anything that you wear on your body, it is your second skin. It's there for protection, but it also has the ability to give you confidence in yourself. Uh, and I feel like a lot of that is based on comfort. So, like as a child, I was very uncomfortable in most of my clothing. Now I know it's because of my neurodivergency, but now I also know, as of like 2 weeks ago, that it's because of hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome that I have. So my skin was just very sensitive, always getting ripped up by seams. I would have bruises on my hips from my underwear seams, and I had to wear my socks inside out. So if you think about like, yeah, if you're just trying to go along in your day and something is actively hurting you the whole time, like that's going to take up your energy, that's going to take up brain power and brain space and distract you. So, yeah, I just wanted to make clothing that would be comfortable for me and yeah, would also be comfortable for other people. But I also saw at a young age how people treated me differently based on how I was dressing, and I really liked playing with that, playing with those preconceived notions, lots of times being very upset about how those preconceived notions would affect the way that people treated me, but then trying to figure out ways to take that and turn it on its head and use that as a power. So now or yeah, pretty much my whole life I've dressed pretty radically visible, which is where the dress reform movement that I came up with as the ideology behind Rebirth Garments kind of comes from. Um, but yeah, just having clothing as your second skin, as your armor, uh, both physically and emotionally, is really what Rebirth Garments is all about.
I appreciate you sharing some of the experiences that you've had growing up. So, growing up as a child, you mentioned that you would get ridiculed for some of the things that you would wear. What describe to our community what some of that apparel looked like, and what are some of the comments that you would get from that?
I would say actually the first thing was that I used to wear all clothing that my Filipino grandmother would make, my grandma Cora. So I was pretty much always wearing like a dress, usually in some sort of sky print fabric from Vogue Fabrics in Evanston. Um, so yeah, everybody loved to have like, punny things about my name because my name is Sky. So I would be wearing sky, a whole sky look with a matching little purse for my tissues made out of the scraps. So yeah, I would wear that a lot. And at first, yeah, everybody was like, "You're so adorable." But then at some point it was like, harder to just wear frilly little dresses all the time. Um, and yeah, I started wearing other clothes. I would wear like thrift store clothes, or yeah, other secondhand stuff. So people would be kind of like about it, but then yeah, and I decided that I really wanted to go along with the status quo, and for like a couple of years, I decided to try to dress with about dress like in what was in at the time, so it was, like, juicy couture tracksuits, um, and, like, Coach bags and other designer stuff, uh, but then when I started high school, I the first day I saw my first girlfriend and how cool she looked, she was dressed, like, kind of punk, um, and that's always how I wanted to dress, so I started dressing that way, and that's people have strong reactions towards punks. Um, and for a while, I wore cat ears when I was dating her, which now, yeah, I know like that type of
It's so
freedom of
popular.
well, it's a popular,
The
but it's
cat
also
ears.
like literally
Yeah.
under attack right now with the
Mm.
Texas bill to prevent. It's like a horrifying bill called like the Furries Act or something, and it's like trying to be yeah, it's just anti-queer and neurodivergent people. Um, so, like, yeah, in Texas schools, they're trying to make it illegal for kids to, like, literally just wear, like, cat ears or tails,
Oh, wow.
which is ridiculous. It's, like, so much better things to work on, but yeah. Anyway, so, yeah, I would wear that type of stuff. I would get lots of people saying creepy things to me. But then I started wearing my makeup that looks like a tattoo, and then people mostly stopped messing with me. They would come up to me and talk to me and be very interested in it, um, or, like, freaked out by it and, like, be like, "Oh god, I'm not gonna go near that person." But I really liked how much power my makeup that looks like a tattoo had, especially at that time in 2007. Yeah, 2007. Um, yeah, because people had such strong reactions is I used, like, at the time, $2 Wet n Wild eyeliner, and I still use the same eyeliner, it's just probably more I think it's more expensive now, um, but I really saw how people would stay away from me who I didn't want to be around, and then I would,
Yeah.
like, draw in people who I did want to become friends with, and then, yeah,
Mm.
people stopped, like, grabbing me on the public transit, So that was like an amazing empowerment for me to be able to do that with my looks.
People stopped grabbing you once you shifted into a more punk style fashion?
Once I started
Or
specifically wearing the makeup
that
that looks like a tattoo. Now
mm,
now there's so many more people who do creative eyeliner, so I think less
yeah,
people think it's a tattoo, but at the time,
yeah.
like, everybody just thought it was a tattoo, and but it, like, really kept people, like, creepy men away from me.
It was like your protection piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sky, we had a community member when we asked our questions. If anyone has a question for you for this episode, there was a community member with the handle Litchi, Litchee. I'm not sure if you know that person. I saw that you were following them.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That asked if you can describe what fashion would be like for neurodivergent folks or invisible disabilities, why don't we start with defining what that looks like?
It can look like a lot of things, but for me specifically, it's having soft seams or having seams on the outside, both for my neurodivergency and for my invisible or like, yeah, my non-apparent disability. Uh, for my, yeah, for the hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos uh, and polycystic ovarian syndrome, I have a lot of stomach issues. So that's actually when I started the clothing line is when my stomach issues, uh, started making me physically sick. I had always been neurodivergent and mad my whole life, but I didn't have, more physical type disability stuff until I or that I knew of, till I was 21. And, yeah, so I had to make clothing that was just very stretchy and, could grow or shrink with me so that like yeah I get extremely bloated all the time. um Anything tight on my stomach really hurts, but if it's stretchy and like just tight enough to stay on my body, then that's good. um yeah, for some people it's material based, so like for me, spandex and like, basically any stretchy fabric is good for me, but for some people, they can only wear natural fibers, which yeah, Garments doesn't have a ton of, but we do have some, uh, but we also have a lot of meshes to be a little bit more breathable. One of our first products is a sheer sports binder, and yeah, at the time and even now, I don't really know too many places off the top of my head that have sheer binders. Um, but that would help a lot because, like, a lot of binders at the time were so stuffy. Uh, when I started the company in 2014, so that helps a lot. Um, for the binders that I make them based off of people's measurements rather than people choosing a size. And, like, yeah, it isn't always perfect, but, like, people give me their measurements and kind of the preferred fit that they would like. So, I have a lot of folks with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome who have dislocations or subluxations with their ribs and can't wear traditional binders, so they'll ask for a less tight bind for one of my sports binders, and that will be, yeah, not as compressive, but it will allow them to still wear a binder uh, and still have, yeah, just be able to wear a binder still. And yeah, there's lots of different ways of having different closures on garments to make them more accessible. I tend to have less closures, like, I try to make things that are just stretchy enough that you can put them on without any closures, because closures are usually, like, a really big inaccessibility point,
Mhm.
but I also have options where people can get different closures on most of the garments. So if they need like closures here, or yeah, on the sides or in the front, um, in order to be able to reach it, then those are options. Um, yeah, and then I think sometimes weight can be definitely a thing. Like most of our stuff is pretty lightweight. Um, but yeah, there's not one way to make clothing that's accessible for everybody because people have, you know, uh, they have different needs and that they might also have conflicting needs. So we
Mhm.
always just try to make it work.
I love that you provide so many accommodations through your clothing and, to just really encompass the diversity of the demographic that you're serving through your garments. I feel like I'm the type of person that will, like, look up things when you mention them. Um, can you spell out the conditions that you are living with currently? Just in case people are
Oh
like,
my
"What
gosh.
is
Yeah.
that?" You know? And then for each one, maybe describe how this impacts your health and wellness on the day to day, so folks can have a more understanding of the purpose behind your work.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, with my neurodivergency, I'll start there because that's what I'll start chronologically with my diagnoses. So I have anxiety, depression, and panic disorder. Although those are all so much more chilled out ever since since I graduated from college. I don't. I used to have panic attacks literally every day my entire childhood, like teenagehood, and
Mhm.
early 20s. But once I had my own autonomy over my schedule, it's like amazing. I can't believe it. Um, so yeah, those ones are more commonly known. Also, CPTSD, so complex PTSD, and a
Okay.
lot of that is actually because of I would say my Filipino side, or
Mm.
more specifically, my dad. So a lot of Filipino folks have a lot of trauma from colonization and
Yeah.
war, and uh, pass it on to their children
Do you
from
wanna
not.
talk a little bit more about that? About what that looked like for you? Since a lot
Sure.
of our community is also tuning in and maybe like, "I wanna hear more about that. Am I going through that too?"
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I would say, so my dad was, like, in and out of my life. He technically was with my mom the whole time. He passed away in 2019, so that's why I'm sometimes refer to him past tense. Which actually he passed away from, because of having hepatitis, and it turned into liver cancer that metastasized to his bones, but because he didn't drink at all, he didn't know about the liver cancer until it was in his bones, and it was way too late. But I just wanted to say that because so many Filipinos have hepatitis and don't know it, and there's not, like, widespread testing, especially boomers, Filipino boomers, it's, like, very common. It turned out many of the people in my family had it. They tested after my dad got sick, and it turned out so many people in my family had it
Oh, wow.
unknowingly.
Do you know how they contracted it?
I
No.
don't I
Yeah.
don't really know, uh,
Okay.
but yeah, I guess they all had it, and,
Oh, wow.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's it's more common in boomers because boomers don't get tested for
Mm.
things,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
it's also common in, like, yeah, what they said, quote, unquote, "third world country," whatever.
Mhm.
That's nonsense wording, but that's what they said. But yeah, I just really want to have people get tested for hepatitis because, yeah, it's just very devastating, and you don't know. Um, like, yeah, he was totally fine until he was literally dying, uh, or seemingly so fine until he was dying, and, yeah, I just don't want other people to have to go through that, so please get tested. Some of them are, treatable.
Yeah. And then you were talking about in the intergenerational trauma and war that many Filipinos go through and how that contributed to your complex PTSD?
Yeah, yeah. So both of my grandparents lived through World War II. My granddad was a guerrilla warfare fighter. I don't really know much about what was going on there. He did not talk about it, so I think that was just like bottled up. But he was very nice and sweet. My Filipino grandmother, she was. I mean, now I'm seeing that we were very similar, like just so high. Well, before gaining chronic fatigue syndrome, very high energy, very anxious, very um yeah, got to do you want to do what you want to do, but also you want to tell everybody else what what to do. Um she yeah, she would just kind of like pick at people so much, like picking them apart. Um and like very controlling. So I think her like how she didn't process her trauma of, like, World War II, like, yeah, when she was a young child, uh, their house was bombed, um, and, this is, like, kind of a cute story, partially just, like, her little sibling was just so devastated about, his training potty. It's not cute, it's terrible, but just, like, cute that he was, like, so obsessed with his training potty. Um, so, like, there's those stories and, like, stories of her surviving a massacre. She was, like, walking home and saw a Japanese soldier just massacre an entire street, and she hid under a house, and that's, like she was the only one to survive on that street. So, like,
Oh,
all of these
yeah.
stories were just, like, really common from a
Mm,
young age. I would hear these stories all the time and just, like, what
yeah.
she went through, um, and, like, yeah, I really understand that she went through so much and, uh, but, yeah, did not really get to work through that trauma in I don't know, in I yeah, I guess so she just, like, kind of put a lot of it on other people, but, yeah, I know she's just doing the best she could, um, but I definitely think that that contributed to, like, how my dad acted as a father. He kind of then reacted against that. He was like, "Oh, I don't wanna be controlling," so he was just completely absent, and then but then when
Mm,
he'd be around, he would, like, have sometimes bursts of anger, uh, at really small things, and I would just be very confused and not know what was going on, like and yeah, so just kinda scary stuff sometimes, um but yeah, but my grandma would always say that she didn't believe in mental health or anxiety.
yeah.
She'd always just be like, "It's all in your head," and I'm like, "Yes, exactly. Your head is in your body, is in your, it affects everything."
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
So that's some context about the complex PTSD.
yeah,
You were mentioning that there were other conditions that shape the company that you Rebirth Garments.
yeah. So I also have polycystic ovarian syndrome, and that's Cystic, and then ovarian, like your ovaries. Um, and that's like regular, like very erratic periods, very extremely painful menstrual cycles and
Mhm.
cramps. This has been affecting me, I think, ever since puberty, but I was diagnosed when I was 17 and I had an ovarian cyst rupture. And I think that that's a lot. That plus the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, I think, are just like friends of making my stomach miserable. Polycystic ovarian syndrome has definitely affected me quite a lot in my life. And yeah, now I try to manage it with with I've tried to manage it in all of the ways possible and nothing really works, but I do take some TCM tincture, like traditional Chinese medicine tinctures through this place called Elix, and that's been helping. Um and then yeah, I guess I gained a whole new slew of disabilities uh when in the end of 2019 I got Epstein-Barr virus, which is also known as mononucleosis. It's all and then in other parts of the world it's called glandular fever,
Hmm.
and that is a virus. It's part of the herpes virus family, and it kind of makes it so your spleen doesn't really work very well, which is what makes your blood good. I don't know. I'm like not very good at all of this stuff, but basically that turned into the post-viral illness myalgic encephalomyelitis, and that's spelled Myalgic and then space Encephalomyelitis, which is more commonly known as chronic fatigue syndrome, but a lot of people don't like calling it that because it feels, yeah, kind of it doesn't really talk about the extreme nature of the condition. It's actually so yeah, lots of times people call it ME/CFS, and it's actually ME/CFS Awareness Day today on May 12th
Hmm.
when we're recording this. Um, but yeah, basically, I got sick with mono and I never got better. It's kind of like a lot of there's many people who have had mono before where it hasn't turned into CFS, but it's kind of like having mono and never stopping having mono. So you're so exhausted. It feels like you are hit by a truck so much of the time. You I'll sleep many times 15 to 20 hours a day and wake up and not feel refreshed, and I'll feel so tired that I'll have to just I'll sometimes only be able to be up in order to eat one meal and then I have to go back to sleep. And uh, it's definitely a dynamic disability for me. There's different severities of it, but one of the biggest hallmarks of it is called post exertional malaise. So it's like you might be, and yeah, exertion can mean exercise, but it can also mean going up the stairs or walking across the room. So anything where you are exerting yourself in any amount can cause post exertional malaise. And this lots of times it'll be like, cool, I feel okay right now. I'm going to cook something or some for an hour. And then the next day it'll be like I cannot get out of bed whatsoever. I cannot do anything. Um, that's just kind of an example. But for me, it's usually I used to be able to dance all the time. And now it's like I remember at the end of 2020, taught a Zoom workshop for kids where I danced for 10 minutes and then I had to sleep for an entire month and I couldn't do anything else. So,
Um,
yeah, it really varies for people. Um, some people can't leave their beds ever. For me, I mostly don't leave my house. I leave my house like once a week to teach and then for doctor's appointments sometimes, unless
mhm.
I can get it as telehealth. But it really depends on the person. But uh, it can also be very painful. It's very similar to fibromyalgia. Like they're like kind of friends with each other. Um, and then yeah, so with ME/CFS, a lot of people have a constellation of disorders. So a lot of times people have ME/CFS. They also have mast cell activation syndrome, where you basically have things like allergic reactions to so many things. Um, so for me, I'm just allergic to a lot more things than I used to be, and like things that I wasn't allergic to before having mono, and then like starkly a lot of allergies started since then.
Like digestive allergies or
No,
also
like chemical
environmental as well?
allergies,
Mm,
environmental, medicine.
mm,
Like I'm allergic to a lot of medicines all of a sudden that I
mm.
wasn't allergic to previously. Like
Got it.
I had been fine before. Um,
Right.
yeah, and then the other two that go along with those two are uh, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. This I
Uh-huh.
think I've had my whole life, where it's a lot of times where you basically, whenever you stand up, but also it can be when you're sitting up and not laying down. So like postural. So you're sitting up and your blood pressure goes up. It kind of feels dizzy, like you're gonna faint. Yeah, it, like shoots up, and then as soon as you lay down, it like is better for for a lot of people. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I used to faint quite a lot. So yeah, that's like one of for me, like heat will make it worse, and for a lot of people, heat will make it worse. So making clothing that can be layered, or yeah, I wear lots of skimpy clothing because I just get overheated very fast and then faint easily. Um, and then yeah, the last one, which I just got diagnosed with this last month. I had had doctors who had suspected that I had it many times over the past uh, decade, and then they've been like, I don't think so," but but like, yeah, now that I went to a specialist, they were like, "Oh, of course you have this. This is very silly." That they did not know, but the hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So it's HYPER um, MOBILE, and then space, and it's a name. It's a name. So EHLERS dash DANLOS syndrome. And that's like your body doesn't produce the correct type of collagen. So, like, your joints can be really loose and dislocate, subluxate very easily. Your skin is stretchy. Your skin is very fragile. But yeah, it also has all these other symptoms of like stomach and digestive issues, um, and yeah, prolapsing parts of your body because of it. It's like your body doesn't want to hold things in; it just wants to. Bloop. So that's now why I am wearing neck braces these days, because I'm supposed to try to keep my neck, less unsupported.
Mm. Wow, Sky. I I think what's inspiring with all the conditions that you're living with is that rather than taking a deficit approach to everything that you're living with, which can easily be done by so many people as multiple conditions arise, you've really been able to spin it into a more not only inspiring thing, but also motivational thing for other people that may be living with similar conditions. And I think that's a perfect segue to talking about what radical visibility really means and entails. It's the title of our episode. And for you, it's a Queercrip dress reform movement that you defined on your website. Tell us what you have on the screen for folks that are just listening right now.
I have the Manifesto zine. It's a cut and paste uh, zine, and it's called Radical Visibility, a Queer Crip Dress Reform Movement Manifesto. There's a picture of me, Alice Wong, and Nina lit off on the cover in a photo by Grace Duval.
Are these all people that are part of this movement with you?
Uh, yeah. Well, Alice Wong is not queer, but she is an amazing justice activist. Definitely check her out. She was just when I started Rebirth Garments, it was around when she started the Disability Visibility Project, and I felt like we were just both having such similar approaches to thinking about, like, yeah, disability justice, or yeah, it's very much just on the same wavelength. So that's why she's on the cover, because of the Disability Visibility Project. And then, yeah, at the time, Nina just used to work for me. um, so yeah, but Alice is Asian, and it was just very exciting at the time to get to meet other Asian folks in disability justice world. Um, yeah, I
So
will
shout out
say,
to Alice.
yes, Alice Wong, national like hero, international hero. um, yeah, I will say that, like, lots of times the word inspirational can be very touchy in disability world, because of inspiration porn, which is an idea of, like, oh, like, yeah, putting disabled people on pedestals and then being like, well, if they can do it, I have no excuse, like that type of thing. But I understand what you mean, because, like, yeah, I feel like lots of times people will say that I'm inspirational for the same reasons that you say that. Um, but I do see, like, people take action and, like, yeah, inspiration, it's that means, like, you have a call to action, like, to be motivated to do something. So I literally do actually see people jump into action and do things, and then
Yeah.
I'm like, "Cool, you can say that I'm inspirational if you're actually then going to go into and do something about it." But yeah,
Yeah.
I will just say that that is a touchy word.
Got it. Well, let's talk about the glossary that you have on your website. And for folks that are, let's start with for folks that are unfamiliar with the term queer crip. What does that mean?
Queercrip is a word that's combining two ideas, or two identities. Queerness, which is uh, lesbian, gay, bi, trans, intersex, asexual, uh, agender, um, two spirit. There's so many more identities that fit under queer. It's like a politicized umbrella term that lots of people use. I really love the umbrella term queer because I feel uncomfortable put into boxes, and I feel like it's the most open
True.
and, like, kind of vague. Um, So yeah, queer, and then crip, which is short for it's a reclaimed term. Uh, it's short for cripple. Um, so a lot of times, yeah, folks who are not disabled usually are not using this word. It's usually the more like political disability justice oriented folks who are using crip, and uh, there's differing ideas about how inclusive or closed it is. I am always like, I don't know, I'll go with whatever's most inclusive. Um, but yeah, put together, there's a lot of crossover with queer identity and disabled folks. There's so many people who are both. So it's a word to be able to encompass both of those identities. Um, and yeah, I will say that uh, Leroy Moore spells Crip with a K instead. He is a black disabled man, and he finds that spelling it with a K is a lot more safe for black or other racialized disabled folks. So yeah, I will just note that I didn't know that at the time when I wrote my manifesto. So right now, so yeah, it's with a C, but I will have that on the glossary about Leroy Moore. Just because, yeah, there's a lot of Filipinos who are also black. Uh, so just want to keep y'all safe.
Mm, thank you for saying that. Tell us more about Radical Visibility. Was it the name of a movement that came from you, someone else, or a collective? Define for us what Radical Visibility is for you.
So it's a movement that I uh, created, I guess. But I mean, people have been doing versions of this, but so basically, I've always dressed very out there, very colorfully, uh, to not be ignored. And then when I had all those experiences in high school where I saw how I could use my appearance to protect me or to, um, yeah, draw in friends, it's very much from that.
Mhm.
Um, and then yeah, basically, I wrote the manifesto a little bit after my stomach disorder stuff started happening, and I yeah, I really wanted to do this clothing line since before that happened, but when my stomach issues started happening, that's like really what motivated me to like get it started right then. I was like, I just got to do it. Um, so yeah, I couldn't wear a lot of clothing that I used to be able to wear, and I wanted to make this clothing that would be cute and accessible for myself. And a lot of people were extremely confused by this idea of making clothing that was both gender affirming and adaptive for disabilities at the school that I went to. So because of that and like those weird reactions that I would get from people who uh, yeah, would say that disabled folks couldn't be queer or disabled folks don't have a gender.
Hmm.
That was, yeah, very wild common things that people used to say. Or I mean, I know people still say this, but like at the time I was hearing it a lot in 2014, 2013. Just people not understanding that disabled people are people.
Yeah.
And therefore can have a whole host of identities other than just being disabled. Um, so yeah, that's why I wrote Radical Visibility. I wanted to talk about the ideology behind rebirth garments,
Mhm.
but also, yeah, push this movement that people don't have to buy rebirth garments to be part of radical visibility movement. They just have to, dress in their true forms. So it's about taking up space physically, visibly, uh, auditorily, texturally,
Hmm.
as people with marginalized identities and refusing to be ignored. It's about dressing this way in order to find your community. It's I mean, yeah, for me sometimes I like to play with this idea of the of trying to teach non-disabled folks or yeah, pre-disabled folks and um and other folks like more about this, but radical visibility in itself is more about being visible in order to for yourself, but also for other people with with these identities so that they can feel comfortable to be themselves, express themselves, um, and yeah, hopefully be able to build community themselves if they can do that. But yeah, there is a caveat of being like you gotta um, yeah, you're kind of deciding whether it's safe or not to be radically visible. Because I know, especially now, that a lot of times it's not safe. So, yeah, you can be radically visible at the club, or you can be radically visible on a Zoom with your friends and try out, like, or like, you know, at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Like some places that are a little bit less high risk or something. Um, but yeah, like for me, I like to be radically visible everywhere because I have a lot of privileged identities and privileges in my life. Um, for example, having parents who are artists who were totally fine with me dressing up however I want, uh, me ri- being my own boss. So, like, I'm not afraid of getting fired. Um, And yeah, I live in the house that my mom owns. So, like, all those basic things I have covered for me, and I'm not worried about losing. Um, so, yeah, I try to be as radically visible as I can everywhere I go because I have those safety yeah, safety nets in my life. But I know it's not always possible for everybody. So I just want to say that, especially in these times. But yeah, as we can see with like the Keffiyeh is a really good example of like a radically visible movement that's been going on for longer than my movement, where people are wearing something to show their identity or show what they support. And they are doing this in order to, yeah, create safety with their own community. Like the idea of if everybody is wearing them, then it's like harder to target one person individually, but also so that you can tell people like what you believe and that you might be a cool person to be friends with. So yeah, that I mean that's a very simplified idea about that, but just wanted to give a shout out to a radically visible movement that has been going on. Uh, because, but yeah, yeah. The term though is from how I dressed, and I started writing this manifesto. And my teacher that I was writing it for, Romy Crawford, was like, we couldn't figure out what the name was, and she just was like, "You're just so radically visible." And I was wearing all pink that day, and I was like, "That's the title." So yeah, she's the one who came up with the name.
Awesome. Which is your favorite color? Pink is your favorite color, right?
Neon pink is my favorite. Yeah, like this color pink.
Which
But
is
it
kind of
makes
it looks
sense.
like a it's like a magenta neon type of pink for folks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Now, your manifesto, so is that the title of your zine or is that the title of a particular issue? What are some of the takeaways or describe some of the content in the manifesto?
Um, Radical Visibility, a Queercrip dress reform movement manifesto is a zine, but it's also the issue number 0 of the Radical Visibility Zine series. So I have a couple more issues. Um, One is the Radical Visibility Collective issue, and that is
Mhm.
a collective that me and my friends Vogues and Compton Q, um, which yeah, we're on the cover together of that zine, uh, made together, and then the one after that is the Radical Visibility Zine RVC2 issue, and that was for the second Radical Visibility Collective um, collection. So, yeah, basically, I also have a coloring book, but it's out of print, and
That
some.
sounds like fun.
I know, yeah, I had risograph printed them myself, but I need to like get them. I should just have somebody make them for me again. I get these other zines printed through Kablam printing. It's like a comic book printing place. So yeah, they have good colors. That's why I chose them. Um, but yeah, so the manifesto is kind of the basis behind everything, and then after that, I have so many zines that are like almost done that I had like 5 issues basically done right before I gained MECFS, and then I have had so I just have had so little energy. Basically, because of my MECFS, I had to pivot my company a lot to super downsized it, and then I've focused more on teaching so that I can teach the next generation of designers because I'm just becoming more disabled and I can't possibly do it myself. So I need to have the next generation do their thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other issues are they basically are full lookbooks of the collections that
Yeah.
we have done.
Describe what we were seeing on those pages.
So yeah, it's like cut and paste pictures of different people. Let me grab different people in spandex outfits, and then there's like doodles behind them, and then there's words cut out. For both of these Radical Visibility Collective um, based issues,
Mhm.
they have it's also like a lyrics book. You can see the videos on my Vimeo of all of my like past performances, but all of the Radical Visibility Collective performances, it's like a Rebirth Garments performance where everybody's dancing in the garments, but then, yeah, they're collaboratively designed garments between me, Vogues, and Compton Q. But then Vogues worked with a bunch of different musicians and singers and rappers and created audio descriptive music to go along with it so that blind and low vision folks can enjoy the performance and like
Cool.
really get a whole nother level of yeah fun fashion performance stuff. So yeah, so this page um about Brittany says um so we're talking about there's like a slit up the dress. So it says split up the leg, boom 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 pow. After her stroke, her legs stayed hidden, not anymore. They're all we adore. So leg brace coated in pink camo. Look at that sexy AFO. So AFOs are ankle foot orthotics.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, her ankle foot. orthotic has pink camouflage on it.
That's fun.
And yeah, so we're talking about both the clothing, but also identities, and then like celebrating, yeah, celebrating also like pieces of, um, yeah, disability tools, disability access tools, disability mobility devices, uh, talking about them in songs where, yeah, usually like most people don't really know what an AFO is unless they know somebody who wears ankle foot orthotics or they wear them themselves. So
Yeah.
just trying to like talk about it and then like celebrate it and say how cute it is.
I really love the zine that you're pushing out, Sky. How do folks get an issue if they would like to have one? And what do you hope they can take away from it?
You can get an issue on rebirthgarments.com. There is a free abridged version of the manifesto on my website if you click on read the manifesto. And that is the same version that's included in Alice Wong's anthology, Disability Visibility First Person Stories from the 21st Century.
Uh-huh.
And on that same page, there is a video to a Vimeo link that has me reading the manifesto aloud. That doesn't have captions because it's supposed to be meant to listen to while you're
Reading the
looking
zine.
at the zine.
Yeah.
Um, and there's also a Spanish translation of the abridged version by Ana Garcia, uh, who did the translation. And then there's a plain language version. So yeah, lots of options of reading the manifesto. I just hope people take away like thinking about clothing in different ways,
Uh-huh.
thinking about how you can use your appearance like for good, for building community. Um, thinking about um, how thinking about your own identities. I've had a lot of people read it and then realize that they were disabled or neurodivergent or queer or trans and like come out to me. I've had like a huge amount of people come out to me, which is like amazing. They'll be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I've been feeling this my whole life." Or like, yeah, I I think it's given a lot of folks the courage to come out or to dress in a way that matches like their inner soul.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I just hope people get to fully be themselves, even if it's just being able to be yourself in your bedroom. Because I know, yeah, it can be dangerous for a lot of folks, but like if you can have one place where you can be fully yourself and get to express yourself and get to explore that, whether it's in public or in private, I think that's amazing.
Yeah, and this is where the wellness ties in, right? Where people don't always going back to what we were talking about earlier, people don't always think about wearables as a part of wellness. But I think what you just stated is a big deal for so many folks to be able to create spaces for them to be able to come out or to be able to acknowledge crucial parts of their identity that they don't always feel they can completely own, even in their own homes or residences, right?
Totally.
We're recording on May 12th, 2025, and this is a very interesting time to say the least. That we're living in for those living on Turtle Island, aka the US, the United States of America. How do you feel like your movement has been impacted with this current climate? Do you feel like you've had to make shifts in your work or in your, yeah, in your passion project pretty much?
Yeah, totally. Um, yeah, there's a lot of shifts. Many of them are just neutral shifts, like just they might not be necessarily negative. Um, and then some of them are. I think for a while, it was getting easier and easier for a little bit, like, when I from the start of Rebirth Garments, like, more people are understanding that disabled folks can be queer or trans. More people know about trans people, like, things like that. Um, but yeah, now there's also a lot more pushback and a lot more hatred, or maybe not more, but just uh, very outward and like, yeah, not hiding, not hiding the fact that people are bigoted. Um, so yeah, I do have more caveats when I talk about radical visibility that, um, yeah, I think a lot of times people do talk about how visibility in itself, you know, isn't any like or no. Okay, I hear a lot of times people being like, well, representation isn't doing anything or something, which yeah, sometimes it's like not doing a ton, but a lot of times it does help a lot of people. Like, yeah, you know, even in things like movies and TV, like as a neurodivergent only child, movies and TV were my siblings growing up, and that's uh seeing people like me reflected back to me was meant the world to me. My mom talks about um me watching Sesame Street as a kid. I'm
Mhm.
feeling tearing up right now just because I know that Sesame Street is in yeah, having trouble with just yeah, the
Yeah.
PBS being defunded basically. Um but yeah, she said I saw an Asian kid on Sesame Street, and it was the first time I saw, like, an Asian person on TV or something. I don't know if that's totally possible, but, like, maybe, like, a kid or something,
Yeah, well,
and
for you, right? Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, or, like, maybe it was just when I realized, 'cause as a child, I was obsessed with people's eyes. Like, I clearly knew that my eyes were different from a lot of the people that I was around. I
Mhm.
wasn't around I was around my Filipino family a lot, but I wasn't around a lot of other Asian folks when I was a kid. When I was really little, yeah, the first school or, like, playgroup I went to was diverse, but I would say, yeah, there wasn't other Asian people, and then my first grade school was all Latine folks. Um, Everybody called me Chinese. Nobody knew what
Mm.
Filipinos were at all
Mhm.
there, and but yeah, okay, sorry, back to the story. Seeing seeing an Asian kid on Sesame Street, I, like it's just, like, a big memory of my mom being like, "Her eyes are the same as mine." Um, and yeah, just seeing queer people on TV, like, that's how I knew that queer people existed or trans people existed. I was like, "That's, uh" and that's with a mom who's, like, totally queer and trans friendly. Like, yeah, she just would show me, like, movies like To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, and I was like, "Ah, love drag queens, love queers." And then later on being like, "Oh, it's because I was queer." Um, but I just, like, didn't totally understand. So, yeah, I don't know. In this time, I know representation isn't everything. A lot of times it isn't supported with like good enough backstory maybe in like media or like yeah, there might not be storylines that are also showing more of the humanity folks, and I think that's where representation can fail, like, if it's like, "Oh, definitely a white person just wrote this racialized person's character," and it's not actually anything like the experience of being a racialized person. Um, but yeah, so I still think that visibility is very important, but I also see that it is a double-edged sword. I have a quote in the Manifesto from Audre Lorde from Sister Outsider. The visibility which makes us most vulnerable is that which also is the source of our greatest strength. And I like really took that to heart. Because yeah, I think that, if we're finding our community, finding other people, then if we are able to do that, then we can band together and fight back, and against bigots and fascism. If we're all separate and all alone, it makes it really difficult. So, um, yeah, I think radical visibility is very important in like, yeah, needing to have to build community in these times. Um, I think one way that radical visibility has changed is like, yeah, now I really see face masks, respirators as a part of radical visibility. Um, it's something that has become politicized that you feel like shouldn't have become politicized. It's like it's just something in order to keep us all healthy or healthier. Um, and yeah, it's just like a safety measure. And now people who or places that would have had masks required beforehand, like cancer centers, are now not having like, they're, like, adamantly against masks, even though before the pandemic started, they were masks required. Um, and yeah, so yeah, wearing respirators and face masks, is, like, a huge part of radical visibility for the past more than 5 years at this point. Um, Wearing Keffiyehs, I've definitely been like, "Yes, this is radical visibility, uh, way to show, um, solidarity or show your identity."
Let's bring it to our podcast, Pilipinx and Wellness, and let's place this within the context of the Filipino Pilipinx community. You yourself identify as Filipinx. Starting with Rebirth Garments and Radical Visibility, how did you begin to explain what you were doing to your parents and your family members? Earlier, you mentioned that there's some privilege that are living with, being that your parents were both artists. But
Yes.
what have been some of the responses that you've received from the Filipino side or the Filipinx side of your family?
Yeah, well, I kind of went in on it in sort of like a s not stealthy, I don't know, like, I tried to come at it from a place where they would understand. So, like, my grandma Cora, she she sewed everybody's clothes. She wasn't a sewist professionally. She just made everybody's clothes in the whole family, ever since she was young. So, trying to relate what I do to what she did, I really hold on to that a lot to get my family to understand what I do, because they understand how, like, she was an amazing sewist, like, just so good, so detailed. Um, she'd get very obsessive like I do, and, like, all the little details. I remember one time, because she always made me my Halloween costumes, and I was, like, all of the characters from Xena the Warrior Princess, because that is my queer awakening. And I remember she literally cut up a mink belt from her mink coat.
Oh,
Because there
wow.
was, like, fur pieces. I was like, "I do not want real fur, like, just use the fake fur from Vogue, and she was like, "It didn't look good enough, so I had to cut this up
Oh, wow. That
and
was
use
that
it
was
for
her
your."
love language,
I know,
sounds like.
exactly. That's yeah, that's definitely how she showed her love the most to me in, like, a way that I could, like, also understood and could receive it in the way like, yeah, that was our best way of talking to each other was through her making clothing. She couldn't teach me how to sew. She tried to, and it was a nightmare. She was not a teacher in any way. She just wanted she I remember her trying to teach me as a literal 4 or 5-year-old, and then she's just like, "Why don't you already know?" And I'm like, "'Cause I'm a child, like, I need to have somebody teach me how to do something first in order to be
Yeah,
able to do it."
yeah,
Um, so, yeah, I just hold on to that stuff with Grandma Cora, and I'm like, I'm just like Grandma Cora. I make clothing for people, and, I try to make it, in ways that they feel comfortable with. Uh, I think, yeah, even though disability is definitely, I feel like, weirdly thought about in at least my Filipino family, um, I think it's still a little more understood than, like, queerness and transness. So, yeah, I think even though I don't hide how I am online, so, like, yeah, relatives can look up my stuff and see it. Um, they I feel like they definitely focus more on the disability aspect of my stuff, and they're like, "Okay, I understand that." And, like, that yeah, that is also helpful. But now that my grandparents have passed away, um, I and I would never not dress the way that I do in front of my family, like, and I would wear my makeup the way that I do since I was young. I have piercings, I have tattoos, I never have tried to cover them. But I just didn't really talk very explicitly about being queer with the older generation. Um, but now that my grandparents have passed away, then I I talk about it with my dad's siblings, and their partners, and then, like, yeah, as I have talked about it with my cousins, but I feel like they understand it more and more, as time goes on. I feel like when I was younger, they still were like, "I don't know what you're talking about," or like, "Why don't you just call that person your boyfriend?" And I'd be like, "They don't identify as a boy." Like, because I would say partner, um, or things like that, so, yeah, I feel like my family is understanding more and more, and then as I get more recognition from, like, bigger places, I feel like that's also the way to impress a Filipino family. That's how my dad was able to yeah, partially because no, more than partially because he was kuya, so he was able to be an artist because he was kuya, but then when he started getting recognition from his work, then his family was like, "Okay, yeah, that's good."
yeah. I don't wanna negate the other side of your identity, just because we're a Philippine X and Wellness podcast. What were there different or similar responses from your, mom's side of the family?
Um, I well, okay, my mom's side of the family, my grandparents were always extremely caring, so sweet. I'm the only POC person in that whole family, I'm pretty sure, um, who's, like, by blood related. I don't think there's any other POC folks from what I know that are, yeah, only folks who've, like, married in, but I only know of, like, one person. So, yeah, I'm the only one related by blood. My grandparents never made me feel weird, ever. They always were so sweet. Um, they were always really supportive. I Yeah, I started, like, looking queer and shaving my head when I was pretty young. Like, I was 16 when I shaved my head for the first time. Um, my grandma on that side, she had Alzheimer's, so I would say it's
Mhm.
just I didn't there just wasn't really a way to, like, be out and talk to we just had different priorities. Uh, um, it's not trying to go deep into identities, it's just more like being present uh, with her at the time. Um, but I do really appreciate when, yeah, her Alzheimer's was getting more and more intense, and she would, talk to my mom and be like, that is just such a nice little boy that you have," and that just would make me really happy, and my mom wouldn't correct her or, like, quote, unquote, "correct her." Um, you know, at the time, I didn't know that non-binary identities existed, so even though I was feeling non-binary, I didn't have the language for that. But yeah, so my mom would just be like, "Yeah, like, Sky's such a nice boy." Um, my white grandpa, he would literally call me boy always, like, on purpose. He called all of his, daughters boy. I have a tattoo that says boy as, like, his memorial tattoo. Um, and yeah, that was just, like, his nickname. So, yeah, I wasn't out, um, with those grandparents because there was other things to be focused on, in that family. Um, and then, yeah, half of my mom's younger sister and her kids, they're very supportive. Um, I actually started Rebirth Garments partially because of my younger cousin Sophie, who's my mom's younger sister's daughter. When she was alive, she had um, a lot of disabilities. So, um, yeah, some of the first adaptive garments that I made were for her. I made an absorbent screen printed scarf to like for drool or spit for her. And yeah, my Aunt Jody is kind of one of the people who was like, "Oh, you should make clothes." She said you should make a clothing line for kids with disabilities. I was like, I don't want to make it for specifically kids with disabilities because, yeah, so many things are so focused on kids or seniors. I was like, I just want to make it for everybody. And like, yeah, when I started the clothing line, I was very focused on making like cute and sexy clothing because I was like, that's a thing that's heavily missing in disabled clothing is stuff for, like, partying and pleasure, because that's such an important part of being human is being able to have pleasure. So I just didn't want it to be just for kids or seniors. So, yeah, that's that side of my family, yeah, very supportive for a lot of it. I felt a lot more comfortable with my white grandparents than my Filipino grandparents just because my grandma on my Filipino side made me so anxious.
Mm.
Um, but I feel bad about that, like, I wish I could have intellectually understood more. Um, I guess I did, but it just still felt difficult, uh, to be around somebody who's constantly picking at you. But yeah, it's I would say my family is very supportive overall.
Looking at our global Filipino Filipinx diaspora, why do you think rebirth garments and radical visibility is so important to embrace when it comes to health and wellness?
Um, well, for me, I hadn't met another like queer Filipino or Filipinx person until I was out of college. I felt extremely alone. Um, in my queerness, like, yeah, I just didn't feel like even though my family is very accepting, like, later on, like, I didn't know how to be queer around Asian people in general or Pacific Islanders, like, I just did not have that type of community, like, most of the queer folks that I was around who were out or, like, radically visible were white, and I feel like that's such a shame that I didn't have that, community until literally I had to build a community to do that, to be able to find other Filipinx folks. So yeah, I feel like I struggled a lot as a young person, even with having, like, a pretty ideal home situation, with, like, in terms of being supportive, like, I still struggled a lot to feel fully understood, um, in my queerness, in my transness, in my disability, in my madness, um, just not having somebody to relate to, um, who fully understood, the intersections of these identities, um, yeah, and how being a person of color or a person of the global majority really affects all of these identities so much. Um, like, yeah, I feel like for me, kind of being read as Asian, or yeah, being read to a lot of folks as like an Asian femme, the way that they treat me is wild, like completely absurd. Friends who've like brought me to doctor's appointments will just like not believe how people talk to me. Or like business meetings, like having white friends who would sit in on business meetings with me and they would just be like, people would only talk to them and I'd be like, they're my employee. I am the one in charge. Like things like that. I don't know. So yeah, I think talking about all of these identities, being able to find this community in folks who understand you is so important for mental health and for physical health. Like, yeah, being able to have people in your life is important for survival, especially as disabled folks. Like, you need community. It's extremely hard to be able to survive without community. So yeah, that's why I do what I do in order to try to find community and friends.
Where do you see yourself taking it next? Like, what are some of the goals that you envision?
I'm trying to I mean, I've been trying to do this for so long, but trying to figure out a way that's more sustainable with my current body mind, um, to be able to do the work that I do, enjoy the work that I do, um, and still be able to provide service to people who need it. I know a lot of that is like staying smaller, I think is what will be better for me. You know, most businesses are always like, want to grow, want to get bigger, but I think the only reason why I've been able to stay open for so long is staying small. You know, I have so many friends now with like the tariffs ha- stuff happening. So many people are closing their small businesses. There's lots of queer clothing lines that are closing. There's lots of gender affirming clothing lines that are closing. So yeah, just keeping the business open is a goal and keeping myself either kind of at this level or like maybe having a little bit more capacity to do work is my main goal. And working with kids and teens. I love working with kids and teens so much.
Mm. Speaking of sustainability and being able and longevity, really, what else are you doing for yourself within the realm of wellness and self-care in being able to maintain and stay afloat?
Um, I sleep as much as I can. I talk to friends on the phone, which helps a lot. Um, and I take so many baths. I take an absurd amount of very long baths. I'm a mermaid. I have a certificate from Wikiwachi Mermaid Camp from 5th grade that says that I'm an official mermaid. So, yeah, just trying to be part of the water
I'm with
is a
you on
good
that. I
way.
love baths too.
Yeah. I mean, we're island people, need to be by water. That's why I love being in the location that I'm at because you know, the lake is
Mm.
near us.
As we begin to close, tell us more about your operations. What do you offer? Tell us about what types of requests you fill for wearables and accessories.
So right now, our offerings are a little bit more limited than in the past just because of my capacity being so much less than it used to be. So currently we have our like basic best sellers. There's a strapless chest binder, uh, sports binder, which is like a racerback type of binder. Um, we have different gaffs, also known as tucking undies, which are for compressing the lower bits of your body. And yeah, all of the things that we make are made to measure. So you put in your exact measurements, and then we build it based off of that. And you can pick any combination of colors of the fabrics that we offer. We have like a fabric selection page that you can go through. So yeah, we have mostly basic garments, basic gender affirming undergarments that are compressive, uh, available, and then swimwear, a limited amount of swimwear options. Um, and then we have zines, stickers, patches. I have these covers for I don't have it down here with me, but my Flo Mask, which is the type of respirator that I wear, which is run by an Asian dad. I make these like covers that go over it so that you can have a cute design fabric on top of it. I also make holsters for the Far UV Krypton MVP um, Far UVC light, and this is like a light that you can wear because of the holsters that I make that inactivates pathogens in the air and on surfaces as well as mold and allergens. So like when I go out in public, I'm always wearing this on my body. So yeah, I make these holsters. This one's a watermelon holster. I have a lot of items that are raising money for different Palestinian families. Um, Up until last month, from February last year to last month, I was donating 25% of our total sales to Siraj, who is now a 22-year-old student in Gaza. And yeah, there's also items like this holster that donate 25% to him, 25% to Nara, who is a 35-year-old disabled mother, also in Gaza. And yeah, it just goes to daily expenses for them. Um, I yeah, I've been raising money for families, especially Siraj and Nara, since um, January, February of 2020. for. And, yeah, so that's been, like, a huge part of work is raising money. Um, so, yeah, there's, like, kind of a limited amount of stuff. People can message me about custom things. Sometimes I'll have capacity to do them. I mean, yeah, everything is custom made, but I mean, like, even more custom things, like fully new designs. But yeah, lately I haven't had as much capacity for that because it requires more energy. Whereas the um, more basic items that we've been doing, my employees, I have two employees, Kala May Bordy and Morgan Hill, who help sew the orders. And then, yeah, I also do like dance costumes for disabled dance companies. Um, so I've been working on some different chunks of costume commissions for a couple of different disabled dance companies. So I'm always down to do that. My mom was a professional dancer, so making dance clothing is a huge part of what I do. Um, yeah.
And so, for folks that would like to order wearables or accessories, if they have additional questions, you mentioned messaging you. How else can they reach you if they would like to order or would like to ask questions regarding Rebirth Garments?
Yeah. So if you go to my website, rebirthgarments.com, there is a form that you can fill out to ask questions. It also does have my email there if the form is not accessible to you. Um, it usually is accessible to people, but sometimes people don't have the latest technology or whatever. So it has my email there. I usually am better at Instagram, but it goes in and out. Sometimes I'm better at it and sometimes I'm not. Um, so yeah, you can try.
Tell us what your email address is and your Instagram handle.
My email address is rebirth.garments@gmail.com, and my Instagram handle is at rebirthgarments. I also have some other Instagram handles, but that's the main one, and that's the one that I check. Oh, and I also have a CBD business with my Filipino cousin Josh called
Mhm.
radicallychill.me. So if you go uh, in on yeah, in your web browser and write radicallychill.me, it'll go to it. But also that's the same as the handle for Instagram. So yeah, can have Filipinx run family business CBD.
And then to find your website, one can just type in Rebirth Garments in in any browser.
Yeah, it should come up. And if you search my name, everything that comes up is me. I'm the only
Awesome.
Sky Cubacub that there is in the world that I know of.
And I also know that you have an event coming up?
Oh yeah, yeah. So I have Queer Radical Fair, which is July 31st from 4:30 to 8:30 p.m. at Ping Tom Memorial Park, which is in Chicago's Chinatown. We're by the pagoda, if people know that area. We have a yearly festival that I put on with the Chicago Public Library and the Chicago Parks District. And it is always showing off my Radical Fit incubator, like fashion incubator, um, teen students collections. They're amazing intersectional clothing lines, and then also my Rebirth Warriors incubator, which is my uh, youth, um, kid, tween, teen um, incubator that I do at Rebirth Garments' studio. So yeah, bring together all of the youth students to show off their collections. So it's just like a ton of fashion shows. And then we have Tropiteca DJing and Collectivo Multipolar with the photo booth. So those are, it's just always super fun. A great festival, and it's the one event that I do every year, and I don't really do any other events anymore because it takes up all of my energy.
Mm. Well, it sounds like fun. So, folks are in town nearby. Feel free to check that out, and feel free to
Yes.
share the flyer with us or tag us on anything that you post on your social media.
We actually live stream the event too. It's on lumpentv.org. That's LUMPEN And yeah, it's live streamed day of, but then it will live on the Lumpen TV Vimeo and the Rebirth Garments Vimeo after that. We have ASL, cart captioning, and audio description. So we try to make it as accessible as possible. And then the event itself is masked, highly, highly, strongly recommended. I'm not allowed to require it because it's in a public park, but most people wear the masks and we provide free N95 respirators to everybody. And yeah, most people wear it, but we just aren't allowed to say required because it's a public space, which annoys me, but it is what it is. So, yeah, that's the thing.
Got it. Would you like to add any words that you'd like to close with?
Um, Meeting other Filipinx queer artists and disabled folks was so life-changing to me. I have I feel like I had never felt so at home until I finally found other people who had these overlapping identities. Uh,
Mm.
they just understood me more than anybody else that I had ever met. Um, yeah, I've had very strong friendships my whole life, but it's just something so different to have somebody who fully understands these identities all and how they intersect with each other. Um, so yeah, I just hope that you all out there can find your people, find your community, um, and also get to try out being radically visible either in public or in private, whatever is safest for you.
And that's a perfect circle to again shout out Dr. Pal Abustan, who brought you on to the episode. Thank you so much for introducing us to Sky Cubacub. We really appreciate you, Sky, and we look forward to witnessing your journey unfold as you continue to offer healing and wellness to our community through radical visibility. We'll continue to help share your upcoming opportunities as we stay connected in partnership.
Thank you.
And to our community, for our next episode, we're happy to invite back to our podcast Dr. Jaclyn Tolentino of Love Life from our previous season to talk to us about melatonin, vitamin D, and sleep. Stay tuned as this episode will air on Wellness Wednesday, July 11. As we close, we'd like to acknowledge once again our guest speaker, Sky Cubacub, our creative lead, Richie, who's also producing this episode, our video editor, Harmony Tangonan Kwan, our social media strategist and development coordinator, Kathleen Torrio, our outreach manager, Maya Custodio, our advisors, Allison De La Cruz, Rian De Los Reyes, and Safo Tialogo, our community partners, SoCal Filipinos, is Filipino American Life, Rising Filipinas, Therapy Night, and all of our community members for your shares and support. As always, we'll share more about our guest offerings on our Instagram stories and highlights for permanent access with any of their upcoming events. Be sure to follow us at Pilipinx and Wellness on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Don't forget to continue to hit like and subscribe on our Pilipinx and Wellness YouTube channel. Thank you always for believing in us. Be well, everyone. Continue to take care of yourselves and each other. Daghang salamat.